Welcome to Beyond Birth Trauma, From Burden to Brilliance, where we uncover the powerful truth about your beginnings and how they've shaped your entire life. I'm Shannon O'Flaherty, and in this show, we are not just exploring your birth, we are dismantling the chains of generational trauma. We're diving into the core of who you are, peeling back layers of inherited beliefs and behaviors that have held you back for far too long. This isn't just about understanding your past, it is about reclaiming your future. Get ready to break free. This is Beyond Birth Trauma, From Burden to Brilliance, and your transformation starts now. Hi, everybody. Shannon O'Flaherty, and welcome to Beyond Birth Trauma, From Burden to Brilliance. What happens when your earliest imprint teaches you to blend in, be good, and say yes, even when your soul is quietly saying no? In this deeply honest and expansive conversation, my lovely guest, Janet, shares her journey from being the sixth child in a large Catholic family to becoming a nurse, educator, and coach, navigating burnout, boundaries, and a profound spiritual remembering. Together, we're going to explore how birth order, early medical experiences, religious conditioning, and people-pleasing quietly shape our nervous systems, our self-worth, and our capacity to receive life on our own terms. We're going to dive into how early small t traumas create lifelong patterns of self-abandonment, the hidden cost of being the good girl, helper, or healer. I'm sure we can all relate to that one. Burnout as a sacred wake-up call, not a personal failure. And reclaiming spirituality beyond patriarchy, guilt, and rules, and why healing doesn't have to be hard when you're supported and witnessed. If you're a woman in midlife feeling exhausted, disillusioned, or quietly longing for more, this conversation will help you name what's been happening and gently guide you back to yourself. You're not broken, you're remembering. I'm so pleased to have Janet Banks here with me today. She's a life coach and a nurse, and she creates a safe and loving space for people to navigate overwhelm to discover their authentic selves. Blending her background in nursing and training in psychotherapy techniques, as well as deep coaching, she helps clients achieve profound personal transformation. Janet provides coaching services that deliver lasting value, empowering her clients to thrive on their journey of self-discovery and holistic well-being, incorporating therapeutic lifestyle interventions where appropriate. Welcome, Janet. I'm so pleased to have you here.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So, I like to start with all of my guests because we like to know who we're talking to besides the lovely intro about who you are. From your lovely words and mouth, what got you to this perfect place in your life right now, and start at the beginning with your birth? Or before your birth, if you want. Start wherever you want.
Well, like you mentioned, I was born into an already large family. I was the sixth child, and I would subsequently have another sibling, so there would eventually be seven of us. And I I had so many guides in my life in terms of older siblings, four older sisters, and one older brother. I was making sure my numbers were correct there. And so many, and my parents and are, like you mentioned, part of a Catholic family. So being raised in the church, attending services, being of service in the church, and attending Catholic schools from first through 12th grade, and eventually I would go to a Catholic college as well. So
Um,
all of those pieces sort of uh, welcomed me into a family where um, my role was to be another child, a younger sister, and to kind of fit into this place, not to kind of break the mold or um, be a leader necessarily.
that's really interesting because I think most of us have a role in our family, whether we're an only child or whether we're one of seven or more. And it's never really occurred to me until you just said this right now that your role might be just to be a player in the scene of what's going on, to fit in
Sure.
and follow suit and stand in line and not rock the boat. So that's a really interesting role to think of. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah,
Hmm.
not rocking the boat sounds it sounds right. That sounds very familiar.
So
Yeah. Hmm.
do you think that you were aware of that when you were a kid?
No.
Mm.
Um, I don't think I was aware of it when I was a kid, no.
Mhm.
I do think that, well, I think that I knew that I was supposed to kind of follow the the rules of the house.
Mhm.
Um, when th- that we would, you would play at certain times, you would come to meals at certain times, you were not to, I mean, that we were thankful for whatever meal was prepared for us. It didn't occur to me that I would be um, like, say I didn't like a certain kind of food. In fact, my one of my sisters didn't like tomatoes and I didn't like mushrooms. So we had a little pact. When we had food that had both of those things in it, I would take her tomatoes and she would take my mushrooms. So it was really just the culture in my family was um, to be grateful for what you had, and not even, I don't know, certainly there was just never a thought in my mind that I would complain about the food or the lodging or
Wow.
whatever.
I mean, that's
I
really interesting too, because from the get-go, you learned about community. You
Mhm.
learned about community, sharing, compromise, making deals, contracting,
Yeah,
quietly.
sure.
You're learning about those things. So when you look back now, how do you see your birth order shaping your nervous system or your sense of belonging
Mhm.
in the world?
Oh, I think I think it made it easy for me in some ways in terms of um, I knew how to talk to people. I knew how to kind of negotiate. I knew how to get along. And so being, going somewhere new, or getting new jobs or starting school at a new school, although I only did that a couple of times. I was at the same school for many years in, like I said, 1 to 8. I was in one school and then I went to high school at another school. But when I went to the community college after high school, that was a new experience for me. But I always found friends or was able to kind of get along in groups. And because I had this sort of blend in role,
Mhm.
um, I didn't feel like I needed to necessarily, arrive with a bang or
Mhm.
perform in some certain way in order to get um, attention or friendship or whatever. And
It's, It's
I,
interesting 'cause also in a large, sorry to interrupt you, but also I've heard exactly the opposite from people in large families that in order to get attention, they needed to
Mhm.
be bigger or louder or whatever so that they wouldn't be lost in the pack. But so I love hearing this other perspective. There's always another perspective, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't always sunshine and daffodils. I mean, I know bickered with my siblings or we, you know, fought over toys or attention but there were so many of us that I always had somebody. I had,
Hmm.
a younger sister or an older sister or my brother or my mom or my dad. Um, so I didn't necessarily feel alone or that I wasn't getting attention because it maybe didn't always come from my mother. And
Hmm.
I'm sure um, there was some mothering done by my older sisters, even though we're close in age. There
Sure.
wa- it 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 happens.
So then when you started school, because a lot of kids, they start school in either nursery school or kindergarten, they're just, especially if they're only children or if their sibling is much older, they're just learning how to negotiate, share their toys, play nicely with other kids. And yet you're there like, yeah, I could teach the class in it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I I I do remember that being a little bit of a shock to me to be at kindergarten. I believe I went in the afternoon. So it was in a time when there was a morning kindergarten and an afternoon kindergarten.
I think
I,
we
be-
have the same. Yeah.
yeah. And I went in the afternoon and I did notice some things like the snacks that the school provided were sometimes things that I hadn't eaten before, or and then we were expected to take a nap or have lay down and have some quiet time. And even though I could, fit in and get along, I remember needing to adapt to that and feeling like maybe I had been, I don't know if protected at home, but I was familiar with how things worked there. And
Mhm.
I knew the things we ate. And I remember one day we had the snack. Now, I don't, I still don't understand how this was acceptable for kindergartners, but the snack was tomato juice and graham crackers. And I
A
just did
weird
not. I
combination.
know, I know. And tomato juice feels a little bit like uh, maybe I don't know, kids might not be a fan. I like it now, but anyway. And I didn't want to drink the tomato juice. And I I cried. And uh, I felt like I was in trouble for not eating the snack, particularly the tomato juice. So, um, yeah, even though I could kind of get along in other ways, there was a little bit of a shock to my system in, having this new set of rules, these new requirements of me. And but I actually, um, I think overall, I mean, I remember a couple of things from kindergarten, and that being the resting time and the snack. But otherwise, I have good memories or good feelings of that time.
It's so
But
funny because I was the performer always, right? And because my sister and I both wanted my dad's attention all the time. And so I think by the time nap time came, I was like, fantastic, excuse to lay down, even when I was a kid. And the rest of the time, my mother was like, it's like trying to ground Superman, because I was never sitting still. But when it was enforced nap time, I just thought fantastic. Yeah, I'm still like that. Like I'm big love naps. I should take them
Right.
every. So I remember when we were talking, your kindergarten teacher or your first grade teacher,
First
um,
grade. Yeah.
yeah, discovered something.
Yes, she uh, mentioned to my mother, I think Janet has difficulty hearing, maybe some hearing loss. Um, and sure enough, my mom checked and took me to the doctor, and we had an appointment with an audiologist or whatever the role was. And sure enough, I had some hearing loss. I would go on to get tubes in my ears, and it would that issue would resolve. But I remember my mom's. I'm not sure if I remember it at the time or in her retelling of the story as years went by, but she felt terrible. She felt like, oh, how did I miss this? My child can't hear, and I didn't know. But then
How long did you have the tubes?
I probably had them. I probably had them for over 2 years, probably.
And how did that sort of impact or teach your body about feeling safe or trusting or waiting, or how did that impact you?
Mhm. Um, I remember um, a little bit of fear when I would have the hearing test because they'd put these big headphones on, and I had to, raise my hand if I heard a sound, and I remember feeling some fear about whether I would hear the right things, or did I just hear something, or was that not what I was supposed to hear? So feeling like that's pressure to pass the test or do it right. Um, I remember having the surgery to put the tubes in my ears and feeling um, kind of alone and um, lost because this is a very unfamiliar place. I remember it being very bright. I remember,
Or your parents weren't with, was this like proper, you're being put out for surgery, taken off to have this done, so your parents aren't with you
I do
on
not,
hand?
yeah, it was,
Right, right.
yeah. So I don't recall my parents being with me, especially not in the operating room. And I remember hearing the adults talking to each other in the bright lights of overhead, and um, and feeling sort of, like I said, kind of lost and alone afterward. And I can't imagine my mom wasn't with me in the recovery room, but I don't remember them being there. So
Mm.
yeah, sort of um, a foreign, very unfamiliar place.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I also remember having certain restrictions that I washing my hair, I couldn't just like put my head under the water and in the tub or whatever. And I had to make sure I didn't get water in my ears. So I had to lean over the tub, and somebody had to help me wash my hair. And I mean, 7, 8 years old, I wasn't super talented in self-care then. Um, but so I needed help. And then another thing that I recall about that time was that we had our school uh, every, every year. I don't remember what time of year it was, but each class got a week or two of swimming lessons. And because I couldn't put my head underwater, I couldn't participate in the swimming lessons. And I didn't love I didn't love the the swimming anyway. So um, you know, I didn't
Or
hate sit I didn't hate sitting on the side with my teacher for that time. I only remember 1 year really that I had to do that. So like the timeline about how long I had tubes in my ears is a little fuzzy. Um, was it a year?
sometimes
Was
when
it 2 years?
sometimes when we're kids, even if you were happy to sit out of swimming, and I do remember a lot of us trying to get out of swim. I mean, I loved swimming, so I was happy to do that. But I remember a lot of girls not wanting to go swimming for all of the various reasons, right?
Sure, sure, sure.
Um, even if you're happy to be discluded from something, when you're a kid, that impacts you because you're the odd one out sitting on the
Hmm.
sidelines somehow. And especially after being part of a big sort of pack mentality,
Hmm.
if you will, in your family. How did that, how was that for you?
Sure. And you mentioned the pack. That was one thing that um, my mom noticed that as she got to thinking about it, she might not have noticed my hearing loss because when she called us for dinner, everybody else went, I went. When it was time for school, when you got kids up in the morning, I just went along with the group because there were other cues besides hearing the words.
Did you realize that you couldn't hear? I mean, because how do you know if that's all you know, right?
I I don't remember not being able to hear.
Right.
I don't,
Okay.
and I don't remember it in the classroom that my teacher, the first grade teacher who noticed. I suspect it was probably somewhat seasonal. Like I was fine as long as my head wasn't congested or I didn't have a cold or, that. So it probably happened more in the wintertime when illness was around than in the spring and summer. But uh, that's just a supposition. Um, I, um, yeah, that's interesting. I don't necessarily remember feeling excluded. Um, maybe, hmm,
I mean, maybe you didn't feel excluded because you always had the safety net of your family. So
mhm.
being the sixth kid in the herd, how how was that? How was that for you?
Um, the it was there were some times when I I my older siblings thought that I had it easy because when they were younger and my mom had more babies in the house and they were still young, um, they would somebody would have to sweep the floor after dinner, somebody would have to wipe off the table, somebody would have to do the dishes or load the dishwasher or whatever sort of chores there were in the dinner hour. And so when my younger sister and I were, you know, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, starting to be aware of those sorts of things and not no babies in the house anymore. My mom didn't need as much help, and so I didn't have to do some of those chores after dinner. And yeah, certainly there were things, but um, like we would take our dish to the sink or whatever, we put it in the dishwasher, but there weren't quite so many things. And my older siblings would say, "Ah, you got it so easy. You don't. When I was your age, I had to do this or that." Um,
I
such,
would always say to my mother, I'm like, you let Kelly, my older sister, she's only 19 months older than me. Like it's a whole
right.
generation. Like you let Kelly when she was my age, and I'm much more mature than she was. My mom would be
Right.
like, "Oh my
Oh my
God,
God.
what am I going to do with this one?" As though it was like 10 years later. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
younger kids do generally have it easy because the older ones are the pioneers. The mothers learn how to be a mother with all of the first kids,
Mhm.
don't they? So by the time the
Right.
babies come along, it's like, oh yeah, been
Yeah,
there, done
done that. Yeah,
second child. You've already kind of like, yeah, I
yeah.
see.
I guess I don't have to freak out about this one. Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And
I
so,
do.
yeah, go ahead.
Uh, I also remember, especially as they were um, getting older and doing fun things with, um, you know, fun clothes or going out and doing fun things. I was just could not wait till I was their age, till I was old enough to do whatever the things that they were doing or wear the things that they were getting to wear. Yeah.
Yeah, you had trail blazers, so they
Hmm.
were they were cool teenagers. I remember I had a girlfriend who was in a family of six and quite mixed, boys and girls ahead of her, but she had um so this was back in back in the late 60s, I guess, mid to late 60s, and she had cool like teenager older sisters, and they'd all be sitting in the park, and I used to think I was cool just by association because I knew them all by name even though I was just a friend's friend, because there they were like with guitars in the park, and they were all hippies, and they were burning like incense, and they were just the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. I also remember as my siblings got older, they would, if my parents were not at home, they would throw a party, and
Mm.
I did not like that. I was like, it's too loud. I want to go to bed, and it's too loud, and we shouldn't be doing this. Mom and Dad would not approve of this, um, and I felt like I had to be quiet about it. I couldn't,
Did they
um,
swear
you know,
you to secrecy?
um, I I don't remember exactly, but I think it was I don't remember exactly, but I
You
do I do
lied.
feel like it was we were supposed to keep this secret. So
Right.
yeah, it was it was clear that this wasn't supposed to happen and mom and dad weren't supposed to know. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Our boys tried to tell us that they had a big rave when Bobby and I went to Peru, and I came back. I was like, "You so did not. We followed you. No, no, we blocked you." I'm like, "You did not. You don't have enough attention to detail. I would have known if there was something going on in the house." And to this day, they say they did, but we don't believe them. Anyway, we don't really care now. But
Right.
it's like if you're gonna lie, lie about something that actually matters, Just- So
Yeah.
you also had an older brother.
Yes. He is the one right above me. And probably, I mean, my oldest sister and my youngest sister are 10 years apart. So
Mm.
the longest space between us is between Tom and I, my brother, and let's see, it's a little over 2 years. So
Wow.
um yeah,
You know, your poor mother, man, just popping out babies. Gosh.
I know I remember asking her, um, you were having us, one after the other. What happened? What made you stop? And she said, I just after your sister was born, I just decided I was done. No more. I thought, there, okay, that's what you say. I mean, I didn't dig into it too much further, but um, yeah, she just thought that was the magic number. Um, but my brother was um, he was special. He was special to me. He was special to my mom. Um, I don't, I don't, I do remember um, him getting a slightly special treatment, and that was if he wasn't at home at dinner time or my dad wasn't home at dinner time, there was a we need to save some for your brother. We need to save some for your dad. And that stands out in that I don't necessarily remember hearing that same sentiment about your sister's not home. We have to save some for your sister. Um, so it was, I thought he was pretty cool. In fact, the first day that I went to school where I had to ride the school bus, I got on and I was in first grade. I was a little tiny one on this bus, and the kids on the bus were like all ages from first grade to high school. I mean, it was all ages. So it was kind of scary to get on there with some of these big kids that I didn't know. And my brother was in a seat with somebody else already. And so, but I looked at all the people on the bus and thought, I'll sit next to my brother. So I was like scooted in, and I could tell he was like, scooted over for me to sit next to him. But um, I just thought he was pretty cool. And despite him getting some sort of special treatment because he was the only boy or he was the only other man in the house, um, he was always very caring. And I mean, he was a kid, so he wasn't perfect. Just none of us are. But I do remember him really being patient with me most of the time. And for instance, kind of his two personality traits that I remember when he was his bedroom in our house, he was the only one who had a bedroom to himself, but the bedroom for him had been maybe a den or something. It didn't have a closet. It had these sconce lights on the wall, and the light switch was outside his bedroom. So his sisters could torment him by turning off or turning on his light when he wanted it the other way around. And one day he got a haircut. He didn't like it. He wanted to just be in his room by himself. And so he was in his room with the light off, and one of us turned his light back on. And rather than going out and turning it off and fighting that battle, he just put a pillow over the sconce on the wall, and it started on fire.
Oh,
And
God.
so we all had to, we took the pillow down. I'm sure it was my parents got us out of the house, and it was just smoky, and got that all aired out. And um, so, he had kid ways of managing things, but he also, when I didn't understand like homework, math homework or something, he would take the time to um, explain it to me, and he was good at explaining things in a different way than say my dad or my mom would have with homework.
I
He
mean, you
was
got to think about this kid with like six sisters,
Yeah.
that's a lot, the lone boy, but also interesting that it's like a real sort of patriarchal
Hmm.
uh, society there where save some for the boy and the father, and like the boy gets special treatment. That's very old school too. Where did you grow up?
In Oregon, in a small town, Oregon City. It happened to be the county seat. So, um, yeah, a small, pretty white town in Oregon.
Hmm. And so let's fast forward from childhood. When did you choose this coaching path that you're on now? I mean, you became a nurse. We know that. So tell us how you transitioned from out in the country with your.
Yeah, I definitely had as a. I'll get to the coaching thing. As a nurse, moving from the small, kind of country-ish, rural town, um, to my first job as a nurse was at a trauma center. So we would see all sorts of injuries, traumatic, motor vehicle accidents, motorcycle accidents, also stabbings, gunshot wounds, really traumatic injuries for folks. And it was in the city, it was in Portland. So I saw people that of ilks that I had never experienced before. I took care of an exotic dancer. I had a lot of questions for her. Um, I took care of Black people, Hispanic people that they just weren't part of my everyday growing up. So it was a real eye opener for me to recognize kind of how sheltered and naive I was.
Yeah, wow,
And
that's like so polar opposite because I grew up in a suburb outside of New York and we were in one of the 10 best high schools in all of the United States back then. And of course, it was very multiracial. And then, of course, my parents moved us to South America when I was 9 for a couple of years. So I was exposed to more things and more different cultures and skin tones than most kids ever see in a lifetime, really, which,
mhm,
definitely impacts a kid too. So it's really interesting to hear that would have been a huge awakening. A,
mhm.
you're a trauma nurse, so dealing with the actual trauma, but then also like, oh, and you do what for a living? Oh my gosh.
Right. And some of the there was gang activity in our town, in that town. So, some of these people were gang members. That was something I hadn't seen before. Um, yeah, so a lot of eye-opening information coming in that time.
So can I ask you a question about this, a little bit off subject, but because you're from this loving Catholic family, right? And then you're meeting gang members who maybe stab other people for
Sure,
entertainment or whatever they're doing
whatever. Yeah.
in power. When the gang members are coming in because they're injured and they need attendance, could you see their inner light and their goodness? Do you know what I'm
I would,
asking you?
yeah, I would say I, I, I wasn't necessarily attuned to it instantly. I think that because partly I was a new nurse and learning how to do all the things. Um, but once they were kind of stabilized and I felt like we had I wasn't as concerned about their health, their
Mhm.
survival, and they became another person, just like I was a person. I definitely could see um, who they really were, and less of who they were kind of um,
Masking.
masking or categorized as, or box that they were put in.
Mhm.
I was definitely able to see that they had, they had human characteristics just like me, and that we weren't so different. And that is something that I have, um, I guess, a thread that I have unraveled and pulled through in my life to notice how much people are. We're kind of all one part of this big human family, and less different than are led to believe we are.
I know we all love to believe we're all so unique and different, but but
Yeah,
really we were
yeah.
all born. We all had parents to one degree or another. Even if you didn't have parents, you did. Somebody, even if you were
Parented you.
somebody parented you, somebody somewhere gave you some kind of insight along the way. Might not have been like parents, but if you made it into adulthood, you got your belief system and you got your thinking from somewhere, even the
Yes.
most feral kids, right? So
Mhm. Yeah.
uh, interesting.
Yeah. So you asked me how I came to coaching, and
Mhm.
I think there's a fair amount of seat of my pants stuff and 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 then kind of getting a chance to step back and see something, like I said, threads or a bigger picture, or something being like, oh, I did this then and then and then. And I always really loved hearing my patients' stories, hearing about who they are and what they do when they're not with me at the hospital, or students when I would eventually move into education at a university level as a faculty in a nursing program, getting to know my students' stories and then helping them to learn how to interact with patients. And so I've always really loved that. And I've always found that teaching, um, even if it's um, so oftentimes a patient after having general anesthesia, they would be really, really tired. And when I was working in the 3 to 11 shift, part of the care that I provided was bedtime stuff. So, brushing your teeth, washing your face. I would give them a little back rub. And so many of my patients just did not want to brush their teeth. And I would talk to them about, I've had other patients and they don't really want to do this, but the anesthesia in your mouth, the taste, once you brush your teeth, you'll be really surprised. People are so glad they did it. So um, I'll help you. It'll be quick. You don't have to like do the whole thing. We just need to brush your teeth real quick, get that stuff out of your mouth. You'll feel so much better. And so just little bits of time, like little, little things, important, but not super big deal. Anyway, just I noticed that helping people learn things, learning their story, those things really were important to me, and I found joy in those. And as I was working with students and noticing how they're going to enter the workforce and where they are as in my case, many of them were 20-year-olds straight from high school through college. Um, they they were some of them were struggling in school to
Mhm.
manage all the things, get everything in line so they would study for the test and get the paper written and all the things. And I thought, boy, I sure wish I could help them learn some things about um, how to take care of themselves in this setting so that when
Mhm.
they enter the workforce and it's amplified,
Mhm.
that they'd have these skills that they could take with them.
Mhm.
And so that's when I started thinking about coaching is how could I support people to kind of tune into who they really are and what they want when they go into practice as a nurse and support themselves in their true being
Mhm.
and and uh and then live kind of according to that true being in practice rather than
Mhm.
some of the sacrificing that maybe in hindsight I did uh, in my own practice to
So you worked as a coach with your nursing students then?
I started with nursing students and I would say it was part of my advising role. So as a nurse faculty, I had a certain number of students that I was their academic advisor. So whenever I met with them, I would offer coaching as well, always with their permission. But um, yeah, it was part of my overall role, not just coaching that they would come to me for that one service.
So then what led you, I mean, you're not still actively nursing.
I am not, I still have an active nursing license because my coaching certificate is, I am certified as a nurse coach. Also, I'm certified as a deep coach, but because of the nurse coaching, I keep my nursing license. But right, I do not, I'm not teaching nursing at the university. I'm not working at the hospital. So I'm not a nurse in those ways.
What led
But
you, what turned you from that?
um, I found that my my work it as an educator I just wasn't finding it as fulfilling anymore. And what I realized at the time was that I had been so there is a shortage of nursing faculty, um, and it's because of a number of things. But
In this country too, in England too.
so there was always more work than could be done by the a number of people that were on staff. So I would often get asked to do, can you take this extra clinical group? Can you teach this extra course? Can you do this extra thing? And I was paid for it. It wasn't as if I was doing it for free, but I felt like if they came to me and asked me to do this thing, that I would have to say yes. They must need me, and who else is going to do it if I don't do it? I knew that there wasn't like a deep well of nurse faculty somewhere that they could just haul another one up. Um, so I did that over and over again, semester after semester, working the summer, even though I didn't have to work the summer.
Do you think that
And
fell into the people pleasing trap?
yes, I was definitely people pleasing.
Mhm.
And um,
When did you first realize that saying yes wasn't always aligned, but felt compulsory?
boy, um, I think I'm still learning that.
So here's some people. Learn how to say this. Interesting. Let me think about that. And that's how I got out of the people pleasing trap because I was forever bending over backwards, putting everybody else's needs ahead of my own, ahead of my husband's, ahead of my children's. I mean, really, it was bad. And then I started to pull everything in and started to put myself first. So I teach self first instead of selfish, self first, like the good version of selfish, because we have to love ourselves first in order to be truly available for anywhere else. And not to slant Catholic at all, but there is a lot of that kind of Catholic guilt undercurrent going
Oh,
there. Being not being worthy, not being deserving, all of that kind of stuff, which is just
yes,
not,
absolutely.
yeah. So I was also raised Catholic, well, until they couldn't get me anymore. But anyway, I
Right.
lied.
Tell you've
Learn how to
always had your own path, Shannon. But
yes, I have. Yes.
yeah, I
Learn how to
think
say, let me think about that.
yeah, I think I started really probably becoming aware of that and altering how I filled my schedule probably in the last 5 years,
Mhm.
and learning that no is a complete sentence. I don't have to have an explanation for why I say no, um, and noticing that I just don't have it in me for the things that are on my calendar today, and rescheduling some things.
Mhm.
So it did take, it was a lot to undo in terms of, like you said, the Catholic guilt and the
Are you still an
upbringing.
practicing Catholic?
I am not actively practicing Catholicism, but I will say it is those core values
Mhm.
of that flavor of Christianity really still do um, inform my interacting with humanity. But I
Yeah, well,
also feel like it's
being a good Christian is not a bad thing, right?
right, right,
There's very good things in there.
right, sure. And I do feel like that some of my nursing career and exposure to folks I hadn't been exposed to before really opened my worldview in terms of that there are many ways to be a spiritual person in the world. And I'm okay with that. I'm not, uh, I don't believe that a person has to believe the way I believe in order to have a spiritual relationship with the universe. So,
It's a really important thing that you said. One of my very first students, I took my business online, and she is a devout Catholic. And my work triggered her so much because she felt like it was a sin. And I'm like, it's not a sin. God is the same. I pray to God every day. My God is not a dogmatic God dude in long white robes standing in a cloud. My God is the first love light vibration. I said, if you change your relationship with God so that you can feel the love of God, not the punishment or the judgment of God, because that isn't real. And so she changed her relationship with God, and she's almost more devout religiously now, but with a lighter being around it. And I've
yeah,
spoken to many
beautiful.
people who love their religion, but maybe they don't choose the dogmatic parts of it, or they just take the bits that work for them. And I mean, I love churches. You'd absolutely think I was a holy roller if you came into my house, because I have so much religious art and angels everywhere, and because I love all of that sort of energy. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, as pagan as they get, I think, but I do connect to that spirit, the greater spirit. So however you want to see it, it's all the same. It's all the same. So that's a really important thing that you said.
Yeah, I feel that too. We're all sort of, we're all one, and the universe is there for all of us.
Hmm. Yeah, it absolutely is. Um, so I think that we all kind of start on the healing coaching paths as wounded healers, like we.
Mm.
So did you have that experience of feeling like you needed to heal something within yourself?
Oh, yes, very much. And some of it was physical, attending to my physical body. I felt like I needed to heal. I had to kind of get back in touch with who I really was. I felt like I had kind of put um, shawls and masks and hats and cloaks on to kind of tamp down what my inner knowing was telling me to do because I needed to teach that extra class or work that extra shift or take that extra patient, or take care of my family, like you mentioned, put my kids first, my husband first, all the things. So I really felt that I had kind of lost touch with what are my values? What is important to me? So I felt like that was a big healing piece for me. I felt like I needed to grieve. Grieving was a huge thing that I didn't realize. I was aware of loss in terms of other people and thinking about patients that I took care of and something that they may have lost for either temporarily or forever. Like maybe they had to use physical therapy to learn how to be strong, to get stronger, learn how to walk again. So I was aware of loss, but I wasn't necessarily aware of it for myself. And there were um, whether it's a loss of a role, a career change, an idea or dream that somebody has, I realized that I needed to kind of sit with and grieve. So that was a big healing piece for me, that things that I maybe had lost awareness of what I needed to grieve about, but there,
Mhm.
so, but, and then actual things. Because it
Kind
was,
of a surrendering process, isn't
mm,
it?
oh,
To
beautiful. Yes.
where I am now. Like I've got to process something through me or let it go so that I can come back to what is present for me now, because we have
Hmm.
this image or idea of ourselves, and then maybe we change so radically because of circumstances and experiences that we have that we maybe didn't see coming, or other things happen.
Yeah.
Um, so, um, so tell everybody what you do now, what you offer now.
Yes. So I offer both one-to-one and small group coaching of women, particularly women who are in midlife and have started to notice that kind of overwhelm, fatigue, being tired but can't sleep because their mind is racing about something. Um, they find themselves like not being able to find meaning in what they're doing or where they're at. So I support them with one-to-one coaching, helping them work through that kind of process that I worked through, where identifying the values, attending to physical health, grieving, and
Mm-hmm.
working through any sort of layers, or really it's getting back to who am I at my true self, my inner being, helping to find that person inside that you really truly are, and supporting them to live in that in that space of my true being.
How can people find you? Give people your website.
I Yeah, my website. So my name is Janet Banks. So I'm at www.janetbanks.org. Super easy.
Janet Banks.
And yes, janetbanks.org. And yeah, you can reach me there for a free call if you want to get to know me, and I can get to know you, or there's access to other
Yeah.
information there. So
Well,
that's how you find me.
thank you. Or you can
Thank you.
find me on shannonbtb.com or shannonoflaherty.com. And you can also look at my YouTube channel where there's another it's all the free downloads. I don't have time to do them right now live, but I will do them right after the show. So the downloads today about God and having God's perspective will be on that YouTube channel that you can see. And this Friday, Janet and I are sharing each other's resources out to our mailing lists. So you can get a little freebie from her, and her people can get a freebie from me, so that it's nice to just put our information out into the world. Well, Janet, it's been so lovely to have you here with me discussing all of your past and coming from such a large family and having your perspective opened in the world. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you, Shannon. It's been lovely visiting.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time. Bye for now. You have been listening to Beyond Birth Trauma, From Burden to Brilliance with Shannon O'Flaherty on Transformation Talk Radio. On the second Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time, we connect the dots between your ancestors, your birth, and the patterns that keep you stuck, guiding you to a place of profound healing and unstoppable brilliance. By examining and healing your cellular imprint from birth of how you perceive and respond to the world and the challenges that are created in your day-to-day life, we can begin to heal and live more balanced and fulfilling lives. For more information, visit shannonbtb.com. That's shannonbtb.com.